This is the hand scanner that comes with the Playmates medical tricorder, and it's basically a big hunk of hollow plastic. So with the electronic upgrades kit you actually get a circuit board that needs to be put inside this. Now I'm sure there's other ways of doing this, but this is the way I did it. Please feel free to use your own method. So what we need to do is to split it in half lengthways. You can see the seam here. The seam goes all the way around, and very carefully you've got to use a scalpel or a saw and start cutting all the way around so it splits in half. Once you've got it split in half, the top, the larger circle, and the bottom will just come out. Now what you've got to do is to cut the red lump on the top part away and drill the hole in it for a 5mm LED. Now you can do the bottom as well, but there's no LED provided in the kit. I've done the bottom because I use a rechargeable battery. If you're not going to, just leave the little red lump on there. You can also see I've drilled 5 holes on each side, equally spaced apart, and cut a slot ready for the switch. This next picture is basically showing you the inside once you split it apart. At the top you can see I've stuck 2 little magnets. Now they're there because I'm using a magnetic system to hold the scanner in place in the top of the tricorder. You can devise your own method, but that's what they're there for. And this again is just a picture to show you that the holes drilled in the top are equal distance apart, and there's a hole in there for the switch. So here you can see the scanner array at the top of the picture. The red LED goes through the hole for the top of the scanner that used to have the red lump, the plastic there. The green thing is a 3-volt nickel metal hydride rechargeable battery, and the black thing at the bottom is basically a Nokia rechargeable port. And of course the hole in the bottom part that I've made is so I can put the recharging jack in. If you're not going to have a rechargeable battery in yours, just leave it as it is. So here I'm test fitting the scanner array. You can see the LED's gone through the top part and it's been slopped back in place on one side. You can clearly see the little micro switch and the 2 magnets that I'd installed on that half. Down the bottom there, that green thing is the battery. So at this stage I'm test fitting the recharging jack. You can see it at the right hand end there. The actual jack's plugged in because it's just holding it all in place. Nothing's glued in yet, it's just positioning things inside one half of the body. So with the jack in its place, I then put the battery in. It fits quite nicely. There's plenty of room in there to do the wiring because this is only one half. The other half will just pop over and then I can seal it all together. Nothing's glued in at this stage, it's only test fitting. So this is a method I use to fit the charging port to the inside of the bottom plate. First of all I push the jack right the way through the hole that I drilled for it. Then it was a simple matter of taking the port, pushing it over the jack as far as it would go. Then the disc was moved along the jack until it touched the face of the port. Then I used a hot glue gun around the edges of the port to hold it in place on the back of the disc. I found by using this method the port and the jack line up perfectly. At this stage I've hot glued the circuit board in place, and the little switch that comes attached to the circuit board is put through the hole that I cut out on this half of the body. I've also extended the positive and negative wires. Well, as you can see here, the hole I cut was far too big. It doesn't really matter. The hole was actually cut in this before I started the job because I had previously converted it, and I used a slide switch. It doesn't matter if you cut the hole too big, because at the end of the day you can fill in any mistakes you make. So I decided to test everything here. I just popped the two halves of the scanner together. Nothing's glued. The wires are wired to an external power supply, and I'm just checking everything is lined up nicely. The greens show through the holes and the buttons in the right place. As I'd shown earlier, I have extended the positive and negative wires from the circuit board. This picture is showing that I've added two little spurs on as well. The spurs will actually end up going onto the recharging port, and the extension parts will go onto the battery. And here is the battery. As you can see, the extended wires have been soldered on, positive side and negative side, and you can see on the positive side the little spur that I've added. That will go on to the positive terminal on the recharging port. And the black, although it's out of picture, that will go obviously on the negative side of the recharging port. I've done nothing more at this stage apart from put the battery in the other half. Now the battery is not hot glued in my case, because I have magnets. The bottom magnet out of view, because the battery's sitting on top of it, just snapped the battery into place. So it's sitting there quite nicely. It's not going to go anywhere at all. And you can see the two spurs on the left hand side of the screen for the charging port. In this picture, the top right, the crocodile clip is holding the charging port in place, and I've taken the spur from the positive side of the battery and connected it to the positive terminal for the charging port. This process is basically repeated with the black spur, which you can see on the right of the picture, the lower right. That's soldered on as well. Then the disc that the whole port is sitting on just slots into place at the bottom of the hand scanner. If we start from the top, you can see the big disc with the circuit board hot glued in place, and the LED goes through the hole we made there. You can see the holes on the right hand side of the body we drilled for the scanner. The switch is super glued in place on the left hand side. So we follow all the wiring. On the right hand side we have the battery, which is held in place in my case with a magnet. You can super glue it in, and then we come to the bottom with the small disc in place, and the charging port is hot glued onto that disc. That's the complete setup that I needed to get the scanner to work. So what I've done here is join the two halves back together. I use an Evo stick contact adhesive. Once that was done, there were gaps in the seams that run lengthways down the scanner. That's because it's got slightly damaged as I took it apart. You might be able to do a better job, but I had to use filler, so that's what this is showing here. There's filler all down the seams. Then obviously it gets sanded down, refilled until I'm happy with the look. Once it was all joined back together and sanded down, I used masking tape to mask off the LED at the top, mask off the recharging port at the bottom, and to mask off the little black push bit of the switch. This next set of pictures is just showing that I sprayed it with primer. Once I was happy it was all dried out, rubbed it down, sprayed it with primer again, rubbed that down, filled any holes in, rubbed it down, and then gave it its final coat of paint. Once that had dried, I sprayed it with clear coat, and it's finished. So at this stage I've removed all the masking tape, and there's the finished scanner. In fact, it isn't quite finished. I've got a little gold square to paint. There's the charging port, pin dead centre, works fine. button. That needs painting gold, that little rectangle. And there it's in operation. Light shine through the holes nicely. It's a big chunk of plastic really, but you know, you get the scanner electrics with the kit, might as well use them. So thanks for watching. If you've got any questions at all with this series of videos, please just leave a comment and I'll get back to you as quick as I can.